Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a really interesting travel trend. Why exactly is Sri Lanka becoming such a hot destination for Korean travelers? It's kind of a surprise, right? Well, we've dug through thousands of reviews to get the real story.
So, what's the deal? Is Sri Lanka really the hidden gem that people are starting to talk about? Well, all the data we've seen screams a definite yes. And the very first number we're going to look at tells a huge part of that story.
And here it is, 4.2 out of 5. I mean, think about that. This is the average satisfaction score from over 2,300 reviews on Korean travel sites. That is a really high score. This isn't just a fluke, it's a sign that something pretty special is going on here. Okay, so with a score like that, you have to ask, what's the secret sauce? What's really driving all this love for Sri Lanka? Let's break down what these travelers are actually saying. And you can see that high rating isn't just talk. An absolutely staggering 87% of Korean visitors would recommend Sri Lanka to their friends. And get this, 65% say they want to go back. Those aren't just numbers on a chart. That's some serious love and loyalty for a destination.
So, let's get into the specifics. What are the things that made people fall in love with Sri Lanka? We're going to look at what they actually called paradise on earth.
You know, sometimes one comment just says it all. Listen to this quote from a traveler talking about Sigiriya Rock Fortress. It felt like a real-life Studio Ghibli setting. I mean, come on. That's not just saying it's pretty. That's saying it feels like you stepped into a fairy tale, something truly magical. And that magic is everywhere. You've got Yala National Park, which travelers say feels way more accessible than a full-on African safari. People describe whale watching in Marissa as literally life-changing. Then there are the incredible beaches, and, of course, the rich history in places like Kandy, where the deep Buddhist heritage really seems to connect with a lot of visitors. But you know, it's never just about the places you see. We kept seeing this one phrase pop up over and over again in the reviews. 친절하고 따뜻한 사람들, which means kind and warm-hearted people. It's so clear that the genuine warmth of the Sri Lankan people is just as much a part of the magic as the scenery. And finally, let's talk about the money, because that's a huge factor, right? We're looking at average daily budgets somewhere between 50 and 85 US dollars. For an experience this unique and this beautiful, that is just incredible value. It makes the whole trip feel so much more attainable. All right, but let's be real, no trip is ever perfect. To get the full picture, we have to look at the challenges too. So let's dive into the common hurdles that travelers said they ran into on the ground. And this right here perfectly sums up the biggest headache for a lot of people. On one side, you have the dream, that iconic, jaw-droppingly beautiful train ride from Kandy to Ella. But the reality? Oof. The trains are notorious for delays that can pop up out of nowhere and really mess with a tight schedule. And it's not just the trains. You've got the classic tuk-tuk hustle, where you really have to be ready to haggle over prices. Service quality can also be a bit hit or miss in some hotels, as the industry is still finding its feet after the economic crisis. And once you get outside the big tourist spots, you'll find English isn't as common, which can make things a little tricky. So, okay, we've got the good, we've got the bad. So, who are these travelers exactly? Who's taking the plunge and making this trip? Let's look at the data. Okay, this is where it gets super interesting. The biggest group, no surprise, is couples and honeymooners. But look at this, 25% are solo travelers. And get this, they are overwhelmingly female. That tells you so much about how safe the country feels, especially for women traveling on their own. So what's their trip actually look like? Well, there's a pretty standard playbook. It's this awesome 10-day loop that gives you a taste of everything, starting with the ancient culture of Sigiriya, winding through the gorgeous green tea country, and then finishing up on those stunning beaches down south. All right, let's bring it all home. We've gone through all the data, so now let's turn that into some real practical advice. Think of this as your cheat sheet, straight from the people who've already been there and done that. Okay, rapid fire tips. Ready? First, get an offline map app. Cell service can be spotty. Always have small bills on you for little shops and tips. You have to book that scenic train ride way in advance. When visiting temples, remember to cover your shoulders and knees. And a super useful Korean phrase to know, if you're not big on spicy food, just say 덜 매운 것 주세요, which means less spicy please. So what's the final verdict? When you boil it all down, it's pretty clear. Yes, there are some headaches. There are logistical issues you might run into. But for the vast majority of Korean travelers, the authentic charm, the stunning nature, and the incredible people, it just completely outweighs all of that.
And that really leaves us with this one big question. With this powerful mix of soul and scenery that connects so deeply with people, could Sri Lanka be on the verge of becoming Asia's next great travel story? Based on what we're seeing in these reviews, I'd say it has a really, really good shot.